Welcome back to another riveting episode of the Active Lab Podcast. I'm Larry, and you're Cody, right?
Last I checked.
Okay. Have you ever encountered someone who was so preoccupied with how much they care for and prioritize other people that they were just in this perpetual position of struggle because they put themselves dead last all the time?
Yeah. Like every parent ever.
I don't know that that's true.
Almost there's a significant percentage of parents that end up sitting in the office with me in a consultation.
Okay, that's fair. But
that are in that position.
I know a handful of parents that aren't necessarily struggling all the time and have a fine life and enjoy their life with their kids.
I agree with that.
But so parents, I think that's a big population, mostly because you've made a decision to deprioritize yourself.
Yeah. My data set's skewed by the conversations that I have.
Okay, so the answer is yes, you've seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
There's a concept that I have thought of and only becomes more and more clear for me every single day since the 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever so years ago I first thought of it. And there was this idea of healthy selfishness. And I think that people really struggle with that because everyone I brought it to kind of cringes a little bit because they have a really negative connotation of being selfish and having a sense of selfishness. And they don't, but they also understand that, but I'm unhealthy because of how selfless I've been. So they're in this really weird tension in between where they feel like either they're a good person or they're healthy.
So what is healthy selfishness?
The way I see it, healthy selfishness is an example of it is a breastfeeding mother making sure that she's nourished enough to appropriately breastfeed, for example.
Okay.
Like you need to make sure you're good.
So taking care of yourself.
Yeah. Taking care of yourself so that you can take care of the people and the things that you say you want. Like being healthily selfish is providing for and protecting yourself so that you can be and do and have what you want with whom and for whatever or whomever you want.
So prioritizing yourself because of what it allows you and how it allows you to show up for the things that you want, the people that you care for.
Well, it's tricky because like if that's the motivation that people need to click into gear for that, then that's okay. But like, well, what about you? Are you not good enough? What about just you?
So what would you say to somebody who's like, okay, yeah, I can get behind this. I can get behind this as long as I'm doing it for somebody else.
I would probably, just because I can't resist, I would probably say just out of curiosity, are you good enough? Not just for you? I just want to know where they go there because I think that tells me what you're up against. I just want to know a little more about that. But if this was a person who's struggling for a decade and they're like, for the first time going to start a process under that pretense, like, all right, let's get you on the ride.
Yeah.
And you'll figure it out as you go. But I would probably want to know, and just what about for you? Not enough? If someone says no, I'm like, all right, well, let's get you on the ride for them, and then we'll figure it out from there.
I would imagine you would get more of a I would like it to be rather than a no at that point in time. Where would you take that?
If someone says I would like it to be?
Yeah.
Cool. How come it isn't already?
Well, life, schedule, work, we've got family stuff going on.
I mean, to me, I'm just asking things like, so if there were ways that all of the responsibilities that you want to take care of were taken care of, and you could be taking care of yourself, you would want to.
Yeah, I just don't know where the hours are I'm going to find the hours in the day.
That's fine. That's a different conversation. I just want to know that they want to. I just want to know that someone could decide, yeah, I can be healthily selfish, or I feel like I deserve to be healthily selfish. I feel like it comes down to that a lot. I feel like the sense of deservedness. Yeah, deservedness is big, man. I can't tell you how many people I meet who struggle with who struggle with deservedness issues.
How do you flesh that out with somebody?
I ask them.
Is it just,
yeah,
do you feel like you deserve this?
Yeah. I ask them. I know what it smells like, mostly because I've struggled with it a lot. But I know what it smells like when someone's talking around, I don't know that I should have this. And so when it starts to smell like that, I'll end up, like, if all the things check out, I'll end up just asking someone, can I ask you what might be the hardest question I've asked you so far? they're not ready for that out of the gate most of the time. So I'll ask them like a semi-hard question, and I'll ask, do you feel like you're really capable of this? And that's the first kind of challenge where they'll be like, all right, that is a push, but yeah, I do. So then I'll say, okay, so then that wasn't that hard of a question. Can I ask you a really hard one then? Sure. And then I'll ask them, do you feel like you deserve what you're telling me you want to have? I'll tell them. Or I mean, I'll ask them straight up. And 50-50, it's fine or it's a rough ride.
So that's an interesting way that you process that you go about it, because you identify, do you imagine that you have the capacity to do it? Could you actually do the thing?
That's got to be the order, dude.
Yeah.
Because that ends up being the last thing that's in the way.
Is there
deservingness.
That self-belief?
Dude, I was on, so there's a student that I recently helped enroll, and we've been on her radar for years. And she originally was on my calendar 4 months ago. Lots of back and forths, not ready, not the right time, not enough money, all of these things. And then out of the back and forth of just like logicking through why it wasn't happening yet, when I saw opportunity and she just like was finding other things that were in the way, ultimately I started to realize like this logical conversation around like time and money and opportunity, this is actually the wrong conversation to be having. And I'm actually not finding resonance with her because I'm having the wrong conversation by me thinking those are actually the problems. And so it came up where I realized I actually need to be asking this person whether or not she's in a position to prioritize herself, because I don't think that she is.
How did you get there? Because I think that's a really valuable skill set for someone to have and be able to identify.
Well, I mean, I could open up the whole conversation and walk through text. Maybe we should do that sometime. Maybe we should walk through full conversation sometime. I think people would find that really helpful.
Is it just in the length of the responses? Like, how do you start to piece together?
It's when she said, I could make the time, but I'm not willing to break commitments that I made to these people. It's like, okay, that's fair. Can I ask you a question? Yes. Right now you're compromising on yourself. And it's because you want to continue to fulfill something that you told people that they were going to get from you, which isn't too much. Like what they're getting from you is it's nice, but it's not essential.
Okay.
We would both have agreed on that. For some people, it's like super important, amazing. I'm not saying she wasn't very helpful to them. She was. But if they went without it, they could find it somewhere else or be relatively okay without it.
Got it.
And I asked her, if you told those people that you needed to leave so that you can be and do and have what you've wanted for some time now, because it's going to keep you healthier, because you're a little run thin, because you're a little stressed, because you're unfulfilled financially and in terms of work, and they were angry with you because of that, are those people that you want to be committed to supporting for the remainder of the 2.5 months anyway? She was like, huh. Okay. So it's like, I mean, they're worried about what they're getting from you. They're not worried about how you're doing. So this was the first place where I started to understand that we're talking about someone feeling like they're beholden to other people more than they are to themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it's an easy pattern for a lot of people to fall into in any aspect of their life, not just professionally, but personally.
100% agree. And I think it's natural for us to be sensitive to that. Like we were talking about with social awareness, it's important, but like there's a difference between Ben Bergeron said something that I really liked. I don't like a number of things, but there are things that I have heard that I really appreciated. The phone rang at his house when he was having a meal with his family. You know this one?
Yep.
The phone's for our convenience, not theirs. And he just kept on having the meal with his family. I love that. Really respect that. So there's this tension between what the world is demanding of us and what we decide we owe the world.
Hey, it's Dr. Sean here reminding you that if you are a coach who wants to fill the gap neglected by fitness and healthcare, and you want to make a career doing it, we might be able to help you. Head to the show notes. There's a link there. You're going to click that link to download the ALP curriculum. That's the stuff that we teach to coaches over the course of 13 months to turn them into world-class professionals who never have to worry about missing a paycheck again, doing work they love to do. Go ahead and check that out, and I'll see you on the other side. Let's get you back to the show.
Okay, so I could see somebody hearing that part right there and being like, "Oh, crud." I don't know why crud, but crud's the word. That's me.
Yeah, I get it. Well, look, this person that I had been pulling to be a student because I saw the opportunity, I believed in her, I saw for her what she didn't see in herself. I was pulling, and then finally I was like, so this isn't a conversation about ROI. This is a conversation about you prioritizing yourself. And she kind of just went expressionless and just quiet. And she's a good talker, but she went expressionless and quiet for some time. And I was like, I realized that if this is the case, we actually can't help you because we're teaching people to prioritize themselves, not deprioritize themselves. And we're teaching you to do what you want and to have what you want and help other people, not help other people and you get leftovers. And if you're in a position where you're not ready and willing to do that, that's okay. It just means we can't help you and we might not ever be able to.
That's such a powerful frame to even think about going through your consultative process with a client.
Well, it was a complete flip in the energy. I was completely pushing her away, and it was doing it out of all the love and respect. Mm-hmm. She knows that I was being straight up with her.
Yeah.
She became a student the next day because she reflected on this. She was like, all right, you're right. Like, this is the thing. What do we do here? But she understood that it was coming from a place of complete respect, which it was. Because I respect her intellect, I respect her time, her energy, whatever she decides for her and her partner, all of those things. But if it's not her priority to prioritize herself and take care of herself, then we can't help her. Because people come to us because they want to be able to prioritize themselves and their families, not because they want to deprioritize themselves for an employer.
Right.
So once I honestly said, look, we're not in the market to help support you continuing to do what you're doing. Come to us if you ever actually see that. It was a very different conversation.
You coached her to healthy selfishness.
I believe so. I think that she's going to be, yes, with enrolling in ALP for sure. And that's going to happen over the course of the next year for her in a big, big way that I think she knows in her gut and she's ready for it and she's going to implement it at whatever pace is appropriate for her.
I can see people hearing this conversation, getting to that point where they're like, I can see, like I've worked with enough people, I can see that this person is making the decision to deprioritize themselves. They're not engaged in healthy selfishness. Mm-hmm. They are selfless to a detriment, the martyrdom.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Starts to incur. How do I'm listening to this? I'm like, okay, I get it. How do I start to have better conversations with people around this? To like, maybe I have clients, I have a significant other. How do I now have a better conversation with them if I start to notice this pattern of unhealthy selflessness happening?
I think it starts by calling it out.
What would that look like?
Well, I think it depends on the person and the context and the rapport and the trust that you guys have. It seems like statements are usually generally very good ways to broach subjects when you're reflecting what a bunch of people have been sharing you. And it takes a little bit of the edge off. It exposes it, but it's not like a poke.
What would a poke sound like?
Well, if I have someone that I have implicit trust and rapport with who wants me to speak to them very, very directly, it's, you're doing a shit job of taking care of yourself. I have a handful of people in my life that I can talk to that way, that I want to talk to me that way, but most people don't.
Right. So rather, even another way would look like from a client relationship perspective might sound like, hey, this is what you said you were going to do. These are the actions that you're taking.
Well, it might be, I know. No, I think if I were leading with it sounds like her and it seems like...
No, I'm trying to give an example of what it could sound like to be a little bit too aggressive and make it oppositional.
Yeah. Your words and your actions are out of alignment.
Mm-hmm. You told me that you want X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You're doing A, B, and C. Is this what you really want?
Yeah. If you're one out of the 10 people that want to be spoken to that way, That's great. That's a great way if the person that you're talking to is one of the 10 people that wants to be spoken to that way, do that. That's actually the only thing they're going to respond to. Most people don't want that.
Right.
Most people, you're going to be much better off with something like, it sounds like you're struggling to prioritize yourself here.
Right. It gets you on the same side of the table with them.
Correct.
It's you and the client against
you.
the problem.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what it does. I don't know if I've never heard anyone else phrase it like that before, but I don't know if that's a familiar thing that I'm just not aware of, but that's exactly what that phrase does. There are 3 parties here. There's you, there's the person that you're talking to, and then there's this problem as this third externalized thing. If you don't do that, you become this oppositional force to them.
Yep. Yeah, we talk about that often at the flagship. It's never you versus the client. It's you and the client versus the problem.
That's exactly right. That's what it does. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I would broach it.
Okay. What else how do we help the person listening to this start to identify for themselves? Because with a lot of this stuff, I believe it has to start with self. It's very difficult to coach somebody through something that you're not willing to at least experiment with and try yourself.
I agree. I think that there's this weird dynamic where it can seem what's the thing when you say one thing and you're saying the other thing? It's contradictory. It can seem contradictory, but I do believe it's worth people understanding the whole picture of this idea of you deserve it in and of yourself, and like you're better for everyone else if you do. Both of those things are true at the same time, right? So like most people would not end up living a fulfilled life most people when they're on their deathbed, most people end up thinking the most about and end up most preoccupied about the relationships they had, the people that they were with, the connections that they made, the experiences that they had, the exchanges that they had, the giving that they had, the receiving that they had. Most people aren't counting their medals.
Right.
It's mostly those. That's where a lot of people go when they're dying. So what that means is our relationships and what we give and receive are really, really important for our general sense of purpose and meaningfulness in life, especially towards the end of it. So all that to say, we're not really wired to be happy on our own. We're wired to be happy with people. We're wired to be happy giving and receiving with people. We're social, period, if we're normal and healthy. So if that's the case, yes, you have to consider yourself a worthwhile individual in and of yourself. And assuming you want to live a life of giving and receiving from other people, what do you want to be capable of giving? Do you want to give everyone a little, or do you want to give everyone as much as you're capable of while you stay healthy at the same time? If you want to feel good about what you gave to people and how much you helped other people, well, then you better be in good fucking shape.
Mentally, physically,
I don't mean fit.
emotionally.
Right. I don't mean fit. I mean, you better be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually healthy. Whatever the things are. Financially healthy.
Right.
Socially, all of them. And you don't get that with leftovers. Period.
Yeah, it's the old rather than pouring from an empty cup.
Yeah.
Fill your cup up first and give from the overflow.
Yeah, man.
I really like the idea of leftovers.
I hate the idea of leftovers.
I like
Unless
the
it's
way
something
that
that I
you're
ate for
framing it.
dinner last night, and I'm really excited too.
Yeah.
Dude, I had a baked CD slice for breakfast the other day. Like this half-eaten, didn't even microwave it. I wasn't upset about it at all.
I believe you.
It was good.
Sounds good.
It was better the night before, but it was good the next morning.
I like the idea. I like this idea of not giving leftovers, because what that implies, I like the implications even of it for the type of person who struggles with healthy selfishness, is you're just giving people what's left over. Is that the best that you want to do with them for them?
Everyone's getting leftovers.
Right.
You and the other people. And it's not like, no, they're getting all the good stuff. No, they're not.
Right.
You suck. You're in bad shape. You're not giving them anything good.
Yeah.
You're giving them, it's like today, it's like how chickens are raised on shit feed to get as healthy, big as possible, as fast as possible. You might be giving them a lot. You're not giving them good.
Yeah. That's really, I love that visual. That's good. You might be giving them a lot, but you're not giving them the best.
Yeah, we should write that down.
Good job.
Thanks.
Healthy selfishness. This is something I think we all have an opportunity to practice, whether we're professionals, clients. What else would be valuable for us to discuss on healthy selfishness?
I don't know. What comes up to mind for you?
Does it feel complete?
I don't know if this kind of thing will ever feel complete, but I think it's
Work in
good enough to get
progress.
started. If this is a punch in the mouth for a person or two, I think that's helpful. Any good jokes? Any nice clean jokes?
Not any.
I
clean
know
ones.
literally 0 clean jokes.
Yeah. Welcome. Same.
We have to know one.
I don't know.
There has to be one funny thing that you know that doesn't involve something horrible.
No, there's no. I mean, I was just saying, we watched, Amanda and I went over and we sat Ken's kids on Saturday, and they're 1 and
For those of
3.
you on the East Coast, sitting someone's kids means babysitting someone's kids.
Yeah. What else would it be?
I don't know. I want to clarify.
So, one of them, Cam, he's in his like joke phase, and his go-to is, guess what? What? Chicken butt.
Hey, there it is. That's pretty solid.
17 times a night.
Oh, you got that more than once?
Oh yeah.
Nice. Can't wait for those days.
It's a big one.
All right. Well, thank you, Cody.
Thanks, Larry.
See ya.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Active Life podcast. If you did, please head to wherever you listen and leave us that 5-star rating. It really does go a long way. 5 stars goes a long way. Please leave them. If you're interested in working with us as a coach, remember, we help coaches from around the world build fulfilling careers, working with clients they're inspired to help so they never have to worry about being able to pay your bills again. No one's ever going to ask you if you're going to get a real job when you work with Active Life. All you have to do, head into the show notes, click the link that you find there, download our curriculum. That will give you a feel for what it is going to take for you to be successful. A team member of ours will reach out to you to find out if it's a fit for us to work together. Till the next show, turn pro.